Hello, welcome or welcome back. My name is Ari and today's vlog is all about my June arcs. Now I've got 3 arcs this month that we're going to talk about, and let me introduce you to them before I start reading them. The first arc is technically a May arc, but I got approved for it after I had already mostly finished my May arc vlog, so I just bumped it over into June. That's fine, no big deal. And that arc is Future Artifacts by Kameron Hurley. This is a short story collection about like dystopian war-torn futures as far as I'm aware. I have read a book by Kameron Hurley. I've only read one. I read it a couple of years ago and I can't tell you the name of it off the top of my head, but it was a 5-star. I remember the plot, I just don't remember the name. But yeah, I really loved her writing. I really loved her exploration of like humanity and sexuality and stuff like that. So very much looking forward to this. I hope it's another 5 stars. The second book is a sequel, and that is For the Throne by Hannah Whitten. Now this is a sequel to For the Wolf, which I read last year. I think I gave it 4 stars, but I remember really liking it. But that was like a Beauty and the Beast retelling. Basically how this universe works is the first daughter born is born to rule, right? She's for the throne. The second daughter born is for the wolf. She's given up as a sacrifice to this man known as the wolf, who has like the old kings trapped or something like that. But basically you don't want to be for the wolf. You don't want to be a sacrifice. So what normally happens is like rulers will only have one daughter. So for hundreds and hundreds of years, they don't have to give up a second daughter to the wolf because they don't have a second daughter. But these girls are twins. So there you go. Second daughter goes to the wolf, and the first book is basically about her being sacrificed to the wolf. This dog. The first book is about her being sacrificed to the wolf, even though her sister is trying to do everything possible not to let her go. And then you just kind of have that story, and it's a really great story. And then events happen at the end of the first book, which I'm not going to spoil for you, that lead into the situation that we're in right now at the beginning of For the Throne. But this one is going to follow the older of the twins, so the first daughter. And it sounds interesting. I don't know. I like the first book, so I wanted to get its sequel. And I think this is just a duology, though I'm not 100% sure. The third book that I have, I don't know a whole lot about, but Tor.com reached out to me directly and asked me if I would be interested in reviewing this book. And because it's Tor.com and I will read literally anything they asked me to, I said yes please and thank you. So this is Drunk on All Your Strange New Words by Eddie Robson, and it was advertised to me as a futuristic sci-fi locked room mystery. I'm not hugely big on locked room mysteries, but I do like Tor.com books, and I do like futuristic sci-fis. And this one, just the plot seems so cool to me. But basically it's a future where humanity has made alien contact, and these aliens, I can't remember the race of them off the top of my head, but they've come to Earth and they have like human liaisons and stuff like that. But apparently they speak telepathically, and only some humans have the ability to learn to do this telepathic speaking. And our main character is like a straight up chav, and she didn't really have a bright future, but finds out that she can potentially learn to speak telepathically, gets free schooling to go do this, and becomes a translator. And she is super trashy. like amazingly trashy, not very great at being professional in the best of circumstances, but for humans, speaking with these aliens has the same effect of getting slowly more and more intoxicated. So that's why it's called Drunk on All Your Strange New Words, is because as you're sitting there translating and speaking telepathically, you just get more and more tipsy and drunk. It's not like a chemical drunk, so your liver's fine, but like all of the fuzzy feeling in your head stays the same. And yeah, that just sounds like a recipe for amazing disasters, and I'm very, very much looking forward to reading this. So those are the 3 arcs that I have this month, and let's get on into reading them.
So, I just finished Drunk on All Your Strange New Words. I don't remember who it's by. So this one was interesting because I didn't actually request this book. A person from Tor.com, a marketing person from Tor.com, reached out to me and said, hey, do you want to read this? And I said, I will do anything for you, Tor.com. Please, Gib. Even though like it didn't super sound interesting to me, but you know me, I'm willing to try anything. So this is a very interesting combination of genres. It's sci-fi, but it's also cozy mystery, which I've never read before. This is a futuristic story where aliens have come to Earth. It's been established the aliens have been here for a while. They've set up ambassadors and things like that. And our main character is a Chav who works for this translating company, and she basically only got the job because not all humans can translate, basically. Like, they don't have the capabilities. It's a mental thing where it's telepathic, not like verbal, and just most humans can't do it, but some can, and our main character is one of those. She's kind of mediocre at her job. She's got some things that she does really well and some things she doesn't do very well, but she enjoys the man she's working for, or the alien she's working for. And the interesting thing about this translation capabilities is you become drunk. So not like chemically drunk, but the exact same like blurry, can't concentrate feeling that you have when you're intoxicated. You get the exact same thing from like long-term translations. So when they're trained to translate, they're also trained to act like a professional when you're completely intoxicated. So that is a really, really cool setup to me. And then there is a intergalactic incident and a murder, and it needs to be solved because our main character is potentially being blamed for it. It was wacky and fun. I don't know if the murder mystery itself seemed a bit too complicated for me, but I'm not a big mystery fan, so maybe it's a great mystery and I'm just a Debbie Downer. But I definitely had a lot of fun with this story. Like, I enjoyed every moment of reading it, even if I don't really ever read mystery. I really like the sci-fi aspects. I really like the main character. And yeah, I had fun. I gave it 4 stars. I highly recommend this to anybody. I'm pretty much gonna blanket recommend anything by Tor.com or Tor. But yeah, this is another one. This is a very good one. Definitely check it out if you've got the time. Alright, let's talk about Future Artifacts by Kameron Hurley. This is a short story collection featuring a bunch of futuristic, war-based short stories. About 2 years ago, I read a book called The Light Brigade by Kameron Hurley, and it was a 5-star this year, so that's why I wanted to pick up the short story collection, right? Read a little bit more by her. One thing I noticed from both of the books that I read by her is she does really cool things. Thank you. She does really cool things with gender and gender roles. Female and male are usually like subversive in her books. A lot of the times the culture in her books are misandrous instead of misogynistic, and women are always the powerful ones in whatever society. In one of the short stories, mothers are like the dominant group in the society, but you don't necessarily have to have a uterus to be a mother. It's just your role, and your role can switch. Overall, I feel like she treats gender and queerness a lot like Becky Chambers does, but her books aren't nearly as happy and positive as Becky Chambers. A lot of these stories I like just didn't understand. I couldn't wrap my head around the science of it, but overall I thought the collection was pretty good, worth a read if you were interested in military sci-fi, and yeah, I gave it 4 stars. All right, last arc on this list this month is For the Throne by Hannah Witten. This is the sequel to For the Wolf, which I read last year. Now, this one's interesting because I gave it 4 stars, and it had like every plot device that I hate in it. So, characterization and vibes will go a long way for me. So, at the beginning of the story, it was kind of boring. And like from the jump, I was like, okay, For the Wolf is much better, and I don't think that I'm going to give this anything higher than like 2 or 3 stars. But as we got into the book, I really, really liked Neve's character. She's like the perfect blend of bitchy sarcastic that I love in female characters. She kind of like falls in love with a bad boy, but she's got big dommy mommy vibes, if you know what I mean. As far as the plot of this book, it's awful. It's just straight up awful. One of the things that I don't like in books is when the author does this like fated prophecy thing, and there's not much left to choice for the characters. They just kind of like go through the steps of prophecy. And this one kind of does it in like a worse way, where there's apparently a prophecy, but no one knows there's a prophecy until like after the fact. So it acts like it's all about choice, and Neve has all these choices, and it's like she makes a choice, but she doesn't know what choice she's making until after she's made the choice. For example, and this may be spoilery, but I think out of context it's not spoilery, but if you're worried that it's going to be spoilery, then skip this part, I guess. Neve is trapped in the Shadowlands, which happens at the end of the first book, and she gets the opportunity to leave. As she first escapes from the Shadowlands, this disembodied voice basically tells her, like, you can leave now and leave the problem, which the problem doesn't describe anything, it's just vague, for future generations, or you can go back and solve it yourself. And so she's like, well, I don't want to leave this for future generations, and goes back and solves it. She doesn't know what the problem is. She doesn't know what she has to do to solve the problem. So it's like, yes, you make this decision, but there's no, it's not an informed decision. Like, she doesn't know what she's getting into. And this one is spoilery, but basically, like, the entire book, she's like, I'm gonna sacrifice myself, I don't want to leave this for the future generations, blah, 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 blah. At the very end of the book, she's like, fuck this, leave this for future generations. And just goes about her merry life. And it's like, wait, why did you make these decisions throughout the book to sacrifice yourself? And then at the very end, you're like, never mind, leave it for future generations. It was so bad. It was so bad. Also, this is one of the endings where there's like a false ending, and then but then kind of scenario. I would have loved if the book just ended with the false ending. Like,
that is my dream ending, and I probably would have given it 5 stars, even though I hated the rest of the book just for doing that at the end. But it didn't. Do I recommend this? I don't know. If you really like young adult fantasy retellings and you want an adult experience in those like general tropes, then I think you'll like this, because it is adult. There is a lot of sexual content in here that I definitely would not recommend to a young adult audience. So yeah, while these are adult novels, the tropes and like the type of story is very similar to a lot of young adult fantasy retellings that are coming out right now, if that makes sense. This series isn't like the fantasy romance that I would most recommend to people, but if you really like fantasy romance, especially like the retellings, because For the Wolf, which is the first book in the sequel, is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and For the Throne is a Sleeping Beauty retelling. It's not like a one-for-one direct retelling. It's very, very changed from the original stories, but you get the vibes. So if you like fantasy retellings, you want a little bit of smut, sure, go ahead and read this. If you've read For the Wolf and you're wondering, should I read For the Throne? I think so. I think I would recommend it because it does complete the story, but I do also think that For the Wolf was the better of the two stories. Just Neve's vibe is peak here. Anyway, that's all the arcs I read this month. If you read any of these or interested in reading of these, or if you read an arc or a new release this month that you think I should read, leave it in the comments below. If you still want to leave a comment but don't have anything to say, leave me an orange emoji, because I've got like big orange colored vibes going on with the arcs I read this month. Not all of them, but there's a lot of orange and red, so orange or red emojis. Anyway, I will see you in the next video. Bye.